Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wicked Weather Show. Wicked Weather. I'm your host, Peter Lovasco. I got a great show for you tonight. I got a buddy of mine from Walcott, Connecticut, Stormtrooper Jay, and James J. Dobensky. I hope I said that right, Jay. I'm not great with last names. We'll be on talking about an eyewitness account that he witnessed in Walcott, Connecticut of a tornado. So that's going to be great, and whatever else we'll talk about as far as weather goes. Maybe we'll talk about potential severe weather coming up for midweek next week, and what we see in the tropics and as far as 2014-2015 winter season goes. I also wanted to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Rolling Hills Asylum out in Batavia, New York. Great place. I always tell you I want to get out there, and it's definitely on the bucket list. And Fort Williams Henry in Lake George, New York. It's like, again, if you can get out there, even in the fall, it's beautiful to get out there. You see the great leaves, the fall foliage. It's just beautiful. So you get the mountains, the lake. You want to get out there and check it out. A little bit about my past Saturday weekend. I had a golf tourney last weekend. I was in the Cousins tourney at Ferncroft in Middleton. We shot, I think we were +3. It was shotgun foursome, but we had a great time. It was for a great cause. I spent the weekend, especially today, with my daughter. We went down to the Sidewalk Bazaar. We had a good time. We dressed up. What else is the dad supposed to do, right? We dressed up in crazy hats and gear and took pictures, so you can see that on my Facebook as well. And now we're just getting ready for the show. We had a couple of fraps earlier, celebrated my dad's birthday party. He's 69, so happy birthday, Dad, 69. And that frap didn't go too well with me and my daughter, so I'm playing it by ear. Stomach's not feeling that great, but let's get the show on. So if my producer, Tammy, will bring on James J. Dobensky onto the show, it'll be great.
How you doing, Peter?
Good. How you doing? You like me to call you James or Jay or Stormtrooper? What do you prefer?
Oh, gosh. Jay is fine.
Jay's fine? Okay, great. So, actually, I want to let the listeners know that Jay resides in Walcott, Connecticut. He's New England's go-to storm chaser since 1989. And you're the creator, owner of what? All Things Weather? It's a new private weather enterprise that focuses on what? Education, research, climate data?
Yeah, that's a brand-new venture that was just launched. And we're going to do our best to try, as the name implies, be a really foundational resource for Connecticut on the private front for weather information, weather data gathering, some municipal forecasting, that sort of thing, and also satisfy the itch that I have for storm chasing and do something even more purposeful with it.
That sounds great, Jay. I myself love storm chasing as well. You're also a contributor to ABC News 8. Tell me about the weather program there. Is it like a community thing, or are you a meteorologist, or are you still studying to become a meteorologist?
No, I'm actually fulfilling the Rodney Dangerfield prophecy of going back to school later in life. And
that's good.
I am currently. Oh, yeah. Well, it's never too late to learn. And I'm not all that old, so I don't really feel too bad about it. But I'm going back to school for meteorology, and the WX Edge platform that you mentioned is from WTNH Channel 8 in New Haven, Connecticut, and they launched it a couple of years ago to really give the general public, people with weather interest anyway, a chance to come together in a forum where they could not only learn from each other, but also interact with the meteorologists there at the station and kind of have a good back and forth in terms of sharing information, but also discussing information. And I hopped on board with that about a year and a half ago and have been able to really make some great friendships out of it, do some great writing, kind of fine-tune the craft a little bit along the way, writing articles and slideshow discussions that they will then post on the, no plug here, but WXEdge.com site. which is off of WTNH's site, and it gives people from the outside an opportunity to read them as well.
Right. Just so you know, you're my guest tonight, so you can plug all you want. So you can plug away whenever you want, actually. So do they do do you have is it a new station? I've seen you in the studio, one of the pictures that you sent me. Was that just like a tour thing, or do they actually are there viewers out there that see you doing the weather as well?
No, I've been on a few times with them on WTNH, and I reported during the beginning of the great blizzard. Done a brief live report with them. We have every year they try to do an annual studio day where they'll bring in all the contributors and give them an opportunity to come in, watch a live newscast, see how the weather team puts together their forecast, and then once the newscast is over, they'll give us the run of the place and close their eyes for a little while and let us run amok and play with the toys, so to speak. So everybody gets a chance to, stand in front of the chroma screen if they haven't done that, or sit at the desk and look at the different modeling sources that they have to utilize for their forecasting, and then see the forecasting software that they use to put together what you actually see on TV every night. Right. And that's a great experience for all, weather enthusiasts or upcoming meteorologists studying, to have that benefit and chance to get to do something like that. So I've done that myself with NECN. I was down there with Tim Kelly, my friend Anthony Siciliano. We had a blast. I actually brought down a friend as well, and it was a good time being in the studio and practicing in front of the green screen. It's a lot of fun. You got to remember, when you're pointing with your left hand, you're pointing in one direction and the other direction. And I give these guys credit on the air because it's really hard for them to figure out which way they're pointing, and they're not really, you know what I mean? They can't see themselves. They just see the green screen, and then you see the screen right across from you where you can see yourself. But there's so much movement. If you point the wrong way, you're going to throw people off. All right, so I got you on my show because I think you're a great person. I love following your tweets. I think you're going to become a great meteorologist, by the way, Jay. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, no problem, man. You're always on target. And the Walcott tornado. So let's go over a few things. First of all, refresh my memory. What day was that, and what time?
Well, for our Wolcott, our little humdinger event there, it is 2 weeks ago tomorrow already.
Okay, so it's already been 2 weeks.
Yeah, all the way back on the 27th. It's kind of hard for me to believe that. And according to the National Weather Service, they're recording the touchdown at 12:54 p.m.
So it's 12:54 p.m. Okay. I thought it was earlier, like 11:45 a.m. or 12 p.m. I thought it was earlier than that. But you would know because you're the one that I witnessed it. So what were the conditions the night before that you were looking over that could possibly produce this kind of severe weather in Connecticut? Were the Cape values high? Were we predicting 35, 40 knot shear? Did we have what did we have? Did we have LLCs or how was the I can't even say it. The helicity values. What was mixing in there that gave you some kind of a thing like we might have a severe outbreak?
Well, I'm going to tell you what. The quick answer to that is none of the above. And
okay.
And I really do will always say that there was no real true red flag that came up for any of us, and in going back and talking with the meteorologists from the National Weather Service out of Upton, New York, who I will say, here on the radio did an outstanding job communicating with me to share information back and forth so that they could learn a little bit more about the storm from my being there, and then I could learn a little bit more about the storm because of their data. They were not concerned about anything really for that area. They did issue just a blanket kind of a severe statement for the morning that indicated, Cape values 500 to 1,000, maybe 20 to 25 not shear, if I remember correctly. There wasn't an awful lot. That was the really
so it wasn't
bizarre
that impressive,
thing.
right? Right.
No, it wasn't
impressive
at all. And seeing that forecast in the morning, all it did was put a note in the back of my mind that if I'm out, I should be paying attention because the potential was there for a decent storm. And with that shear being south and west, in our area, as you know, Connecticut and Massachusetts and southern New Hampshire, the little mini tornado alley, I always think about events where that south and west shear component is involved because throughout our history, catalyst for a lot of those smaller storms to spin up over time.
Right.
So I went out on my normal day, started doing everything normal on a Sunday afternoon, and was leaving my house at about 12, about high noon, and I just did one more check of the radar before I literally pulled out of my driveway. And when I looked at the radar on the base velocity, I saw the cell that at the time was coming from, say, Woodbury, Watertown, across to Waterbury. And that's one of the cities that most people will recognize in Connecticut. And in looking at the cell, it had a slight curved structure to it. I wouldn't say it was a hook echo or anything like that. It wasn't, but it was
a little curve, like a little curvature. Okay.
Yeah, and that characteristic played right into the hands of that shear forecast. So at the bottom of that curve, there was a roughly shaped oddity to the overall shape of the storm. So I switched over to the base velocity, and right there at that bottom, there were two, I won't call them distinct, they were rough, but there were two areas of different shear coming together in almost the same spot. They're like right on top of each other. So I looked at it, I waited for a loop, and it wasn't going away. And I figured, okay, well, maybe there's a chance here that something could spin up, even at cloud level. So I looked at my position on the GPS, and it was essentially heading right for my location. And having traveled all over New England for the last 25 years, hunting down storms, I just couldn't believe that there was actually one coming right for me. So I stayed put. I didn't leave town. I just went up to a point of higher elevation where I would get a better view of that western horizon. And when I got there, lo and behold, I could see the storm coming right at me, and I could not see the base into the trees. It was coming down so low that it was undetectable. So I stayed there for a few moments, waited it out. We had one really intense band of rain that came through on the front end of it, but it only lasted for about a minute. And as soon as that started, you started to clear up a little bit, started to get some more visibility back, I could see the cloud-based rotation taking place over on the left side of the cell. So everything, the puzzle was coming together. And I stayed. I watched it for maybe a minute, 30 seconds, somewhere around there. And it rapidly intensified within about a 30-second span, spun down to the ground, and just out of nowhere, I'm looking face-to-face at a funnel on the ground.
Wow. Now, Jay, in that time frame, how quickly did it come down out of the sky? I mean, this just came down. I mean, it wasn't expected to come down, but that footage that you caught of the tornado first coming down, was over a high school ball field? Yeah,
the actual touchdown occurred in a wooded area that is right behind Wolcott High School. And when I'm talking with other people and talking with people in town, all of us are just so, I don't want to say we feel blessed, but we're fortunate that it came down where it did in that wooded area, because if you go 100 yards to the north of that wooded lot, there's an IGA shopping grocery store, rather, and it was packed. It was a Sunday afternoon with shoppers. Had that thing touched down and spun through that parking lot, the damage would have been much, much different. Likewise,
right.
100 yards to the south, it would have come down right in the middle of a residential neighborhood that's on the other side of the property from the high school. So it came down in about the perfect spot if you're going to ever have one, and traveled, about a quarter of a mile before it came out into clear view where the baseball field is to the right of the high school as you're looking at it on the video.
Yeah.
The whole process from seeing the initial signs of it coming out of the base to the ground was probably 30 seconds. And it sounds unbelievable, but I watched it, and it just blew my mind. You know, I've seen plenty of videos of storms forming, and, you know, obviously our interactions on Twitter and everything. You know, Anthony, by the way, you mentioned him before. Anthony's been a great guy to get to know over the years, as you have.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You know, you never think that it's going to happen that fast, but it is kind of characteristic with those EF0 spin-ups, as they're called, to see them come literally out of nowhere and hit the ground. But this one, its staying power, even though it was still brief, just its staying power in that form was something that not even a lot of the meteorologists around Connecticut had ever seen before.
Wow. That's very intense, and for you to be right there catching it at that moment. What was going through your head? Were you nervous? Were you a little bit shocked? Well, you were in your car, right? You weren't on your feet because you can't.
I was too numb to be nervous, Peter. There was one brief span when the funnel was right behind the high school, and you can see it in the video when you watch it. It looks like the funnel makes maybe like 2 or 3 complete rotations almost on its axis, you know, and at that point it looked like it might be changing direction a little bit and coming more directly toward me over the top of the high school. And that was the only time where I ever really had my heart beating faster than it was already. But as quickly as I noticed that, it started to continue more toward the right again. And I felt comfortable. I was obviously
where you
looking
were at,
in it. Yeah, I had one eye on the cameras, one eye in the sky. You know, I was following the debris that was blowing around, which wasn't a lot, but it was still there. In the video, you can see plenty of stuff blowing around. And I just wanted to be safe. You know, as a spotter, especially with the Skywarn program from the National Weather Service, you're trained. One of the things they tell you is, keep yourself safe so that you can do the best job you can reporting when something like that does happen. And that was mission one. Yes, I wanted to get great video. Yes, I wanted to have a great experience and really see my first tornado up close and personal. But I wanted to do it and be able to live through it too, you know.
Well, and the thing is, you did it in your own backyard. You did it in Walcott. We're residing right now and living. That's amazing. I mean, you didn't have to travel out to the Midwest to catch a tornado. This one caught you by surprise. It just came right down out of the sky. And a lot of meteorologists, they didn't, like you were saying, they weren't predicting this to drop one, but it did have some slight rotation to it. And characterized as your eyewitness accounts was they'd never seen anything like this before, as far as the way it was spinning and the rotation, or the way the structure of the storm was. Could you tell me that the structure was it like a foggy cloud, low cloud, humidity clouds? You know what I mean? It wasn't like your normal type thunderstorm clouds, right?
No. Here, I'll give you as much info on that as I can. The LCL for that up just about that time was 1,500 feet.
Was it 1,500? Okay.
Yeah, 1,500 feet. So, when you think about an area like where you are, 1,500 feet is a pretty good distance for something to come down. But one of the unique things about the location where the tornado hit, Wolcott has an elevation that goes down from about 350 feet, I believe, near the Waterbury line, up to just over 1,000 feet at its highest point. So the whole town is pretty much an upslope from the area that this tornado was coming from, this cell, before it became a tornado. As that 1,500-foot level began to get closer and closer to the surface, the level at Wolcott High School is about 825 feet. You close that gap so that you're only talking a difference of, 600 or 700 feet for that whole circulation to be in contact with the ground. So the likelihood of something coming from that is so much greater than if that exact same cell was picked up and, plucked over Gloucester or plucked over my hometown Meriden in Connecticut or Wallingford in Connecticut.
Right.
And this is coming straight from the chief meteorologist down in Upton. He doubts that if that ever occurred, a tornado would probably never happen because of the difference in elevation.
Right, topography and all that. Correct, yeah, absolutely. You get more flatter out there. Well, actually, you got more hills out there in Connecticut because this is Wolcott area. That's northwest Connecticut. Where exactly is that now?
I tried to do a good job describing it to people. If you were to list the towns surrounding Wolcott, they would be Waterbury, Southington, Bristol, and Cheshire. And Wolcott is actually the northernmost town in New Haven County. Okay. So if you're looking at the county maps for Connecticut, there's a little
like central Connecticut, right?
Yeah. There's a little jut at the very top of New Haven County, and that jut, that appendage, is Wolcott. So we border almost at the intersect of Hartford County, Fairfield County, and Litchfield County. So we're in a good spot. Right. We do have a lot of hilly terrain. We have a history of being in what I'll call like a mini pocket for good severe weather. We have just enough flow from the west and northwest for some of those big storms that have come down over the years, and we're just far enough away from the coastline where we lose the influence of the marine effect that really decapitates a lot of storms, if you will, that are running closer to the shoreline. So it's a pretty decent spot to be, not only for severe weather, but in the wintertime too. It's one of those places where it will definitely be snowing when it's raining, down in the valley 5 miles away from us.
Yeah, I totally know all about that marine influence because it always gets me excited when there's a big storm coming. And then it approaches Cape Ann, and it really, you watch the structure of the cloud just peter out, and people are like, oh, we're going to get a storm. I'm like, no, don't worry about it. This thing's dying out. And then with a matter of seconds, you hear the thunder. The thunder sounds great from the distance, right, Jay? And then all of a sudden it just peters right out, But it happens. But living on the coast, though, is great, too. You get the sea breezes at night, so it kind of cools you off if you don't have to worry about air conditioning or, energy bills. As far as people that live, inland, like, say, inland Connecticut or inland Massachusetts or anywhere, New England Central, you don't get that effect that we get here. So sometimes the marine influence can be our friend, and sometimes in the wintertime we can get slammed, too, with the northeast winds off the water. If the water's just warm and the cold air is coming out of the northeast, then we can get slammed with some ocean effect snows as well. So tell my viewers, listeners out there, let's tell our listeners out there, where can they find that video that you took? Do you have that on YouTube, or where did you stick it for the Wolcott tornado that you caught?
Yeah, there is a link up there on YouTube if you search for the Wolcott, Connecticut tornado. It is, I'm pretty sure it's still running on WX Edge, and then I also have it off of the Storm Trooper J page on Facebook. It's definitely one of the top, 5 or 6 posts that I have there, and that links to it as well. And I'm not touting the video, and let me just make that clear. I was just really lucky to be able to have my best camera with me in the car and have something like that happen right in front of me where, yes, I knew it was suspect, and I made the decisions to be there, and I did everything that I should have done as a chaser, but I also got really lucky to be able to see something that magnificent, and I'll use the term beautiful, even though it was destructive, it was still beautiful. And I was able to get something like that on video that some of the meteorologists who have seen it have said it's probably one of the best overall tornado videos that they've seen, because you take it right from formation all the way through growth, through it to its maximum apex, and then you see it, kind of start to dwindle down a little bit right at the end of the video, and you get to see the whole thing. I pan up a little bit at one point, so you get to see the entire cell rotating. You can see the updraft coming out in the front of it when it really starts to get cooking, and you can hear it on the video. But I will say, there is no substitute for anyone who's chased and actually been there and witnessed one. You'll know what I mean when I say there is no substitute for feeling it, hearing it, and smelling it when it's actually happening right in front of you. There's nothing else like that in the world for a storm chaser.
Exactly, and try not to get too excited so you put yourself in any danger, because, like I said, we love that stuff, Jay. You see something, you're just like, wow, what do I do? Do I call and report it? Well, I'm going to watch it a little bit more. Well, of course, being Skywarn spotters as we are, we're going to call in. We're going to send the information right to the National Weather Service, our local news media outlets, friends, the weather stations. Matter of fact, my buddy Tim Kelly was calling in, and I told no calls till after 8:30, so I feel bad. Tim was listening in. So, Tim, you can call in, talk with us. Jay, you know Tim Kelly, right?
I do, and I just have to tip my cap to him, because whether he's on or not, it doesn't matter. He was one of the first guys to respond when I first tweeted about this storm. My initial tweet went out to the NWS office in New York, and the four major news channels in Connecticut. And I did that because I knew it would be faster than the phone call. And I sent a picture of the funnel along with that tornado on the ground in Wolcott as a warning to them. And Tim was one of the first guys that reached out to me outside of our local to want to learn more information about it. You wanted to post a picture that I had put up and asked me if it was okay to do that. And that's the kind of stuff that you really remember. The people that go out of their way to do it and do it right. So he left a lasting impression on me, and I'll certainly enjoy talking to him. I think, before I forget, there were two things that popped up in my mind when we were talking, Peter. First of all, happy birthday to your dad.
Thank you.
My dad, no problem. My dad turned 72 yesterday, so this is a good weekend for birthdays. And what was the other thing I wanted to say? Oh, today is the anniversary of the 1878 tornado that virtually destroyed the center of Wallingford, Connecticut, which is the town just south, the bordering town from where I grew up in Meriden. And I wrote an article about it today for WX Edge. That was an F4 tornado that ripped through Wallingford, Connecticut. And for people who know anything about Wallingford, it's a somewhat hilly, a lot of old farm terrain type of town, but a really historical, beautiful downtown district, home to Choate Rosemary Hall. And it was leveled. I mean, it cut through like a buzzsaw. And in the old photos, the stereoscopic photos that I was able to find, it looks eerily reminiscent of what I saw in Brimfield and Stockbridge and those areas in Mass from the tornado in 2011. It was that same kind of buzzsaw effect, where it was like a quarter-mile wide gouge out of the land, and everything that was in its way was destroyed. So this is one heck of a good, well, not a good weekend for them, but gosh, that was 100 and whatever years ago.
Right.
A lot of stuff going on this weekend for both of us.
Absolutely. I mean, and another thing looking back is we're both storm chasers. When I get the chance, I have my daughter every other weekend. But when I get the chance, I'll go out to Western Mass if the conditions are right. Sometimes I'll go up the Route 2 area corridor, kind of hug the border of Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Massachusetts, probably 2 hours inland away from the coastline. That's the best place where I'm going to get a good view. But again, as chasing in New England, Jay, it's really hard to chase in New England due to the topography, the hills. We're not as flat. We can't see it coming over the trees. We can't see it coming. It's not like being out in the Midwest where you can just roam and roam forever, miles and miles and miles, and you can see, for 50, 60, 70, 100 miles ahead. When you storm chase, where do you go as far as New England goes? Do you go out in Western Massachusetts? What have you seen out in Western Massachusetts that you caught?
Well, going back, I'll take you back all the way to that first chase that I did in '89. That was the complex, really of 3 tornadoes, but it all seemed to be the same cell group that started just over the border
can I stop you for 1 minute?
Yeah.
Can I stop you for 1 minute? We're going to bring in Tim Kelly.
Oh, great.
I believe we have Tim Kelly on the phone as well. I know we can.
I was just getting into the 1989 story.
Chris, Tim, welcome aboard.
Hey, Peter, Jay, good to meet you.
Tim, what a pleasure.
Well, you were on the right place on that July 27th storm. Was that in your backyard or what?
Yeah, I missed that detail there when we were talking earlier. It was, as the crow flies, a mile away from my house.
That is so weird. So, it's like you get what you visualize. You've been visualizing a tornado. There it comes right over your head.
And I really was not kidding in the video when I said I had a dream the night before. And I never dream about stuff like that, but I had a dream that I was going to see a tornado, or that I saw one in the dream. And I was in the shower that morning, and it's like, wow, that was so vivid. I can't believe I actually had a dream about that. And sure enough, whatever it was, 6 hours later, I'm standing out there watching a funnel in front of me.
That is cool. Yeah, dreams. I think there's an ability to see the future in dreams sometimes too.
Hey,
I agree with that.
Hey guys, Tim and Jay. As we're looking at weather perimeters, a lot of my listeners want to know up here in New England, especially up here on the North Shore. Any chance that we see a repeat of the Revere tornado this week? It looks like conditions are going to be tropical, and we might have chances maybe on Wednesday.
Yeah, there's going to be another tornado in Revere on Wednesday.
No.
Widespread panic.
No. I'm just saying, what are we looking at as far as weather goes around Tuesday and Wednesday time frame? Are we looking at any severe chances?
Looks like a better setup for tornadoes than it did on the Revere day.
Does it really?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Well, the Revere tornado, if you look carefully at the observations on the Revere tornado, the wind was northeast and then went southwest. Upper level winds were from the southwest. And we've got almost the exact same thing on Wednesday. There's going to be a warm front over the south coast. So again, it's going to be a southeast wind at the ground, and there's going to be like a southwest wind up in the sky, and it's getting very cold up in the sky. I guess it's not as warm a setup as it was for the tornado. Although,
you don't need to really have
too warm.
You only really need is high dew points, right, Tim? And like temperatures in the low 70s to get one. Yeah,
the temperature and that dew point went down to 62 in that Revere storm.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. What actually caused that one, Tim and Jay?
Go ahead, Jay.
It was warned as a severe cell, but it didn't become tornadic until after it already hit Revere. So I was just wondering, what it must have really formed real quick and nobody knew, because it can happen before a warning. Right, Jay?
Well, yeah, Tim, you can take it when I'm done here and fill in the rest of it. But when I was watching that in the morning, there was Doppler indicated rotation in that when it was hugging right along the Mass Pike, way before it got anywhere near Revere. And then it just seemed to kind of dissipate right before the event happened. I mean, that was the weirdest thing about it. I couldn't see anything for the last 15 minutes. And then it just took off and came right out of nowhere in that HP, and no one saw it. You know, it was such a bizarre circumstance, and different in many ways from what happened in Wolcott, because we didn't see anything even close leading up to that event. Right. And that came out of a cell that was a lot smaller and only had it had about 20 knots shear and was only about a 20 to 25,000 foot cloud top in the cell that produced the tornado in Wolcott. I think it might have spiked up to about 30K right at its apex as it was happening, but that was about it.
Right.
The storm up there looked a lot more impressive before it ever produced it.
Yeah, I agree. You chime in on that, Tim?
2 unwarned storms in 2 days. And I don't think they warned on that one in Leamington, Connecticut, Maine either. So we had 3 unwarned storms in 2 days, unwarned tornadoes in 2 days.
Wow.
I don't know. It's just there were, like you said, there was a very low top, and they just formed and dissipated so quickly. And that one that came into Revere, I guess Matt Noyes gave me the play-by-play on it. He said he was watching it swirl and swirl and swirl aloft until it got over to Boston, then it seemed to weaken. And he was going on the air, and he was really alarmed. He was trying to stare at it, and right when he was on TV, it went tornadic, and the tornado warning came out, but that was about 4 minutes after the damage. And he just, you could see it in his eyes. He goes, I knew it. A tornado warning just issued, and he zoomed right in on Revere. I don't know how the heck he did it so fast. He's like a genius with those computers. But it was just...
Yeah, Matt, it's a genius. You're both geniuses.
I'll tip my cap there, too.
I'm trying to get Matt Noyes on here. Tim, you guys put a good work for me. I want to get him on some night. I'd love to have you all on again some night and just talk weather. You know, we can just talk for hours about weather. But yeah, you and Tim, you and Matt on NECN. I mean, you guys, you let the public know. You give them a heads up ahead of time. You know, Jay, you're doing a great job out in Connecticut. But Tim, I got to say that you and Matt, just like, it's the only station that I'll watch, the only people I'll listen to. I will switch it on 4, 5, and 7, but you know they don't have a clue as much as what you guys are doing on it. So, you know, clap for you guys. And a lot of people really appreciate what you do. But there's got to be something we can do with our towns as far as warning systems go. We don't have a siren here in Gloucester. Let's say that tornado in Revere came 20 miles south, and that would have kept us right on the southwestern side, right? What came up right over Cape Ann.
A long-track tornado is so incredibly rare in New England. I mean, my first ever tornado was in Great Barrington, and I remember it came through like south of Albany, and it looked purple on the radar, and I went right on TV, and, you know, purple is my radar color, and tornado color. And just as quickly as you get a warning, it was over. I mean, that Springfield tornado and the Worcester tornado, and apparently today's the anniversary of that Wallingford tornado. I saw Boston National Weather Service. Those, 3 long-track tornadoes in 100 years. So, how economically feasible is it to try and put up a siren system when you only have 0-minute warning on tornado and they only last for 5 minutes?
Right. But they do have them all out in the Midwest.
Well, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, because they last a lot longer out there.
Yeah, they'll be on the ground for hours. Well,
crazy.
That Reno tornado was on the ground for a long time.
1 hour and 45 minutes, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
How long was the Revere tornado down for? Was it just a couple of minutes? It did that much damage?
4 minutes.
4. Wow.
Touchdown, Chelsea lifted up.
And nobody got killed or seriously injured. That's incredible after looking at all that damage that tornado did. And they had called that an EF2. I don't know. I thought maybe that'd be
well,
go out and look at Springfield.
You think about this. EF2 is still 111 to 135 miles an hour. You're going to do a lot of structural damage with 130 mile an hour winds.
Right. Yeah, we've had a nor'easter here with over 110 mile an hour winds that blew off the roofs of the hotel on the back shore. Yeah. I think I told Matt Noyes and Tim Kelly to get a news truck down here for that storm. if I don't recall, back in February 2012. Right, Tim?
That was a wild thing. That deepened like 25 millibars as it was going right up Route 3 over the north. And then onto Cape Ann. Boy, that was something. Wow.
That
was sort of like that. See, that happened too. The fact that we live right next to the ocean, I think, adds a lot to these things. It makes for more of a bear clinic zone. It kind of works more in the winter time. More in the winter when you have the cold air over the land and warm air over the water. It creates a natural, bear clinic zone. So to have the tornado form on the coast, you try and find an excuse why the water would have helped. Well, the water temperature did warm up last week to the mid-60s, but usually you think of tornadoes with the dew points in the 70s, and our dew point was only in the lower 60s. So it's just
that's crazy.
Freak of nature. Anything can happen.
Well, a friend of mine, Jay Albert, had a picture of a tornado that same night that Revere got it up over Gloucester. I don't know if you guys saw that picture. I put it on Twitter. Credited him, of course, but you could see that the funnel was clearly almost, halfway out of the sky, halfway off the ground. It was up in the air. That was pretty cool to look at. We've actually had two of them in the last couple of years, but they never really touched the ground here. I don't think one could ever touch down on Cape Ann. Maybe Manchester, Essex, a little farther in away from the ocean. But again, Tim, and I was talking with Jay earlier about the marine influence. We used to see severe weather here on Cape Ann quite frequently in the last 3-4 years, but the last couple of years we haven't seen much. They've been weakening now. Is that because the water temperatures just haven't been cool enough or warm enough this time of year as they have been in the past few years, and it's just destroying the storms as they head to the coast? Or is it the wind direction from another wind direction and it dries out the storm?
I don't know.
Only Mother Nature knows that one, right?
We haven't really had a lot of days with the strong southwest wind and strong Bermuda high and a typical cold front coming in from the northwest. We've had a ton of backdoor cold fronts. We've had a ton of warm fronts. It seems like we've had a lot of days without a southwest wind this year.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been as classic a setup where you just get a squall line, forming, crossing the Connecticut River and arriving in Cape Ann and dissipating. Right. The Thursday weather was the freakiest weather in the history of my life on Cape Cod, when an inch of hail accumulated on the ground at South Dennis, where I grew up. I was trapped in Wellfleet. I drive my Jeep around in the summertime without a roof. I don't even like to have the soft top because it takes up so much space in the back, so I just drive around without a roof. And the previous day I was chasing the Bertha swell down on the National Seashore, and I got like an inch of rain. It poured fat raindrops all the way from Sandwich to Brewster. And then the next day we were surfing. It was a beautiful day, Bertha swell, and some head-high waves. And then those storms formed, and we were in Wellfleet watching them come at us and dissipate. And they all went right over Route 6, and one right after another. A wall of weather. That was wild. Something like that could happen again this week, too. I mean, this cutoff low that's forming on Wednesday, it's going to be extraordinary. I mean, it's almost cold enough for snow in Mount Washington, like on Thursday afternoon.
That's crazy.
Mount Washington,
all right, listen, guys, you guys
report.
take a few questions. I got a caller on here. Let's take this call.
Sure.
I'll tell Tammy to put him through now.
Hey, Pete.
Hello. Hey, who's this? You with Pete, Jay, and
Mark.
Tim Kelly. Mark, how you doing, Mark?
Good, you?
Good. Braintree, Mark, right?
Yep.
You got a question for myself, Tim, or Jay?
Yeah, just wondering, what are the chances of a hurricane this year in Massachusetts?
Let's set up with Jay.
Boy.
Connecticut.
Put the blindfold on, and I will throw the dart against the board. I've been talking with some people just over the last week or so, and whether or not there's any validity to this, I'm not fully convinced, but it does appear as if the Atlantic Basin is somewhat opening up for business again. And what I mean by that is, the last few years we've been kind of shut down. We've had that flow of persistent dust, if you will, coming off the deserts and really just killing any development coming off the coast of Africa. Some of that, it looks like it's now abating. It looks like we're really getting into a pattern where if something were to come off, especially once we really ramp up here with Cape Verde the next few weeks, the prospects are there. But if you correlate what's going on in the Pacific to anything that might develop in the Atlantic, it's only going to take one. And that one could be another Andrew, it could be another Hugo. Something like that is like worst case scenario, but certainly plausible because of what we're seeing globally, and now seeing the Atlantic relax a little bit. It's been our saving grace for the last few years. I mean, I know you withstanding with Irene, but that was a freak of nature anyway. I think we might be getting back into a pattern now where we'll see more of a quote-unquote traditional kind of late season for hurricanes.
Mark, you still there?
Yep, I am.
As far as what I was thinking about what Jay said, I agree. And also, you got to remember we're more in a neutral phase right now. We're not in a La Nina. We're not in a real El Nino. So we're like in a neutral. And I believe Tim will chime in on that one too as well. So, it's not going to be a strong El Nino, and I do think that we will see some more activity forming off the Cape Verdes, maybe one or two storms. And most of the action, I think, though, will be from Florida to the Carolinas. Chances of Massachusetts or southern New England getting one probably be about 25, 35% chance. So I'm going to keep that on the low side. Tim?
Yeah.
Well, you look at the weather map like tomorrow and the next day. There's a strong high-pressure system over Newfoundland, and you've got a warm front over the mid-Atlantic states. Something's going to actually try and spin up right there over, like, the coast of Virginia. And look how windy it's going to get on Wednesday. It's going to be like an extratropical storm with severe weather. And as long as you keep delivering these kind of cool highs to our northeast and keep fueling, the anticyclonic flow clockwise into the southeastern United States, that's what bred Arthur. And since Arthur bred, and even before Arthur bred, and since then, we've had a low-pressure system forming on a front off of South Carolina like twice a week. So the pattern is there. Hurricane Bob formed in the Bahamas on August 19th. So, and we're on the B right now. And a lot of those 50s storms also formed over the Bahamas. So, you don't have to worry about the Cape Verde storms sometimes. We've got to worry about the storms that spin up on the Bahamas really fast. And then you get this trough that's been persistent over the Midwest since last winter, and that just keeps reloading and reloading. Then you've got a due southerly flow, and the Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation is still warm, and we've got some really anomalous warm water off the southeast coast. So I'd say, we're in a very vulnerable position to get a hurricane this year.
All right, Mark, thanks for calling in. I hope we got your answer for you. Have a good night, buddy.
Yep, you did.
All right, we got another caller, guys. You guys are popular. Let's see what we got on here. Hello, you're on with Pete, Jay, and Tim.
Hello.
Hello, who's this?
Hi.
It's Ryan the Weatherman from Twitter.
All right.
Ryan Champ. Ryan, how are you, buddy?
Good, you?
I'm good. You got any questions for Jay, myself, or Tim?
Yeah, I have one question.
Okay.
What are your guys' initial thoughts for Wednesday?
Okay. Well, we went over that a little bit. Let's start with you again, Jay. Initial thoughts on Wednesday.
Okay. I'm taking this from the point of view of more so in my general area down here. I don't know if Connecticut's going to be quite as susceptible to the activity that might just be a little bit to our north. I always study the modeling, but I really start to hone in from a chaser's perspective, and I know this differs from a Mets perspective. So and just appreciate that by itself. It's not, they're kind of two different views of the same thing. But I usually don't get cooking on something until it seems reasonable at about 48 hours out, because that's when I really have to start planning on whether or not I'm going to commit to a chase and making the plans, and the logistical stuff to make it happen. I do see it there. That potential is certainly there, and I just don't know. Does it come down this far? Is there enough going on to really impact Connecticut? I don't know. I would say it's marginal. Maybe I'm like on a 40-60 kind of a percentage right now.
All right.
Sounds good to me. It seems like the dew point's going to be too low.
Yeah, I don't know as far as severe weather goes right now for Wednesday, but we'll keep an eye on it for you, Ryan.
There's definitely going to be thunderstorms. There could be flooding rain.
Yeah.
And it could be one of those cases where something mixed down real quick, too.
Maybe we'll get that one-inch hailstorm again.
How many inches of rain do you guys expect?
What town?
For Metro West.
Boston?
Yeah.
0.8.
2 inches.
Between 0.8 plus 2 divided by 2. 2.8, 1.4.
All right. Thanks, guys.
1.4. All right. See you, Ryan.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Good talking to you. You guys, I got to go. Thanks for having me on.
Tim, you got to go on in. Oh, Tim, anytime. Love to have you guys again. Love to have you again.
It's been a pleasure.
All right, buddy?
Great to meet you, Jay. I'll be looking for the next chase. Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys so
much
for all your support and info back there. I really appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. I love it. Thank you. Talk to you later.
All right. All right,
Okay.
we'll see you later. Bye.
All right.
Well, that was a good surprise, huh, Jay?
Oh man, I'll tell you right now, I'm feeling really good, Peter. That was fantastic.
I don't want to take anything away from you. I loved having you on the show tonight. You were my guest, so I just having him come on and being there with us, I just thought that was just like unbelievable. And Jay, I want to have you on again whenever you have some time. And I want to put an offer out there is that if we get a hurricane this year, which I think if we did, it would be I don't know, looking like late September, early October. I'd invite you up here to Cape Ann to cover it with me. I have a live stream. I'm in the process of getting a GoPro camera. Was it GoPro, right? Do you have a GoPro?
Yep. I have a knockoff.
That's okay. I mean, they're too expensive as it is. I know Tim Kelly has one because when he does his surfing, he did the one underwater. Did you see that one? Because he loves to surf, the paddleboard, do all that fun stuff like a weatherman likes to do. So, he's living a life
we
down
all have
there.
our little crazy nuances,
Yeah. But, and then again, like, I really enjoy storm chasing. So if you're ever up for the challenge, we could go, we could do a storm chase together. I'll travel. It's up to you if you get the spare time, if we can find time to do it. This year's storm chasing is almost over. As you know, we're coming to an end in our season. But maybe we could work something out. It'd be kind of fun. I know Quincy does it. He travels all over the country, actually, the Midwest. And I'm going to have him on my show soon, too. You know Quincy, right?
Great. I do. I'll tell you, he's one of my favorite guys. Oh, yeah. He's, I'm a little bit older than he is. And I love seeing
42.
guys.
I'm not that old.
All right. Well, yeah. I've got you by just a year, so it's just great to see somebody like that. And we're blessed with a lot of young talent in New England as far as meteorologists go. Matt comes to mind right away when I say that. Quincy, who apparently might not be sticking around this neck of the woods much longer. He's one of those guys. You just meet him and in 5 minutes that great things are going to happen for him. It's a certainty. So to be able to spend some time with him over the last couple of years and learn some stuff from him, as a Padawan to Jedi scenario for all you Star Wars fans out there. It's really it's awesome to see success come their way for those kind of people. And we're fortunate enough to have them doing the forecasting for us and giving us some of the best information anywhere in this country, just right here in New England. Because, as Tim alluded to, some of the most difficult weather to forecast is right here in New England. There are so many nuances and so many variables that make our weather patterns unique and our conditions unique. And it's one of the most challenging environments to forecast in, I think, anywhere, even globally, never mind just within the continental United States. So, it's awesome. And your invitation, I will ring you up the first time it becomes available, because one thing that you always need is somebody to kind of be a co-pilot, and navigate through with you. It makes it so much easier to have somebody else there instead of doing all that stuff alone. So I'll certainly take you up on that. When I did that chase, that first one in 1989, I was with a very good friend of mine, lifelong friend, and passionate weather buff, and we spent probably 6 hours chasing that storm, and we were always about half an hour behind it. We never really got to see it, but we were, moving trees out of the way in the road so we could keep going. That was the experience of a lifetime to do something like that and do it with somebody that you knew had as much interest as you did in it.
Yeah.
So any day, my friend.
Yeah, I'm up for it. Like we've seen Quincy's pictures with him and the tornado in the distance. I was living in Tampa, Florida for a couple of years, and I witnessed 2 tornadoes, actually. I witnessed one, and you know this, you drive through the Carolinas, the sun's out, you get a warning over the radio, you're in a tornado watch area. The sun's out, you got the tall pines going down 75 or 95, and then they say tornado warning's been issued. Then you got this state trooper flying down the highway, blowing out his speaker, pull over the road, get to the lowest area, there's a tornado warning. I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm on my venture to Florida. Then you see a black hook through the trees and the pines. You start seeing those top pines twisting, turning, blowing. Then I see the tornado go about 300 yards up ahead of me, went right across the highway. And it ripped up the freaking highway. Totally, it ripped up the highway. So that was pretty impressive. Yeah. That was down in North Carolina. I don't know where, but this was what, 12, I'd say 14 years ago, something like that, 13, 14 years ago. So, and then there was another time when I was in Tampa, you could see the water spout coming in off the ocean. They would dip down, almost hit the water, and then take off. All right, I'm running out of time, but I want to have you back, Jay, on my show. Do you want to plug yourself for a minute? Let people know where they can find you or anything?
Let me think. Humbly, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. This was awesome. I appreciate it like you'll never be able to understand. If anybody out there wants to follow what's going on, especially in Connecticut or Southern New England, Stormtrooper J on Twitter obviously is where I'm at. Stormtrooper J on Facebook as well. But you'll be hearing more things about the business, and it's called All Things Weather. Shortly. It's going to take a little while to ramp it up and really get it up and running, but I've been kind of picking away at it for a couple of years, and we're just getting it off the ground, but I hope to do some really good things with that and support your local meteorologists and the National Weather Service people. I guess that's the last thing I want to say. Everybody kind of took a step back after these storms over the last couple of weeks and looked at why they didn't have warnings attached to them. And in defense of all of them, if I can say it, they all understand that people are looking at them for information, and they feel that. And, dealing with the people down in New York, they understand that it's important to get that out. But if the signs aren't there and the data isn't there and you're not seeing something on the radar, it takes reports on the ground to be able to get that system running so that they can effectively warn for things. And it's very rare, but those kind of events do happen. So people have to understand that. It's not a perfect system.
All right, Jay, I got to let you go. We got to cut the show short. Let's do it again, buddy. It was great having you on the show tonight. Thank you so much for coming on, Jay.
All right, thank you again. What a pleasure. Have a good night.
All right, you too. And I want to thank all my listeners.
Okay.
I'll be back next week at 8 p.m. on Wicked Weather. Till then, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.